How did these friends become enemies?
We say, Femi, we know you're sneaking this guy inside the house because all of a sudden the house is becoming a mess. And Femi is normally a very clean person, but because she's starting to leave a house a mess, this is what's becoming the issue.
I just thought it was funny, and obviously it upset her, and that's what I wanted it to do.
I'm gonna tell both of you something from what I've observed here today. Neither one of you are being completely truthful with me.
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor, and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real, and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiffs Michelle Danthin and Roselda Newfill say their roommate was a troublemaker and refused to pay her share of the rent. They're suing for unpaid rent, property damage, and harassment. Defendant Mia Chipola says Michelle and Roselda teamed up against her and overcharged her for rent. She's countersuing for rent overpayment. She's accompanied in court today by Felicia Chipola.
All rise. Court is in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Please be seated. Your Honor, the litigants have been sworn in. This is the case of Newfill and Danthin versus Chipola.
Thank you, Juan. Roselda Newfill?
Yes.
You and your co-plaintiff, Michelle Danthin?
Yes.
Are suing the defendant, Mia Chipola, for $5,585 for unpaid rent, property damage, and harassment.
Yes.
And you are countersuing, ma'am, for $1,809 for rent overpayment. Okay, so we'll start with you. Tell me what's going on here.
Mia is my cousin. We call her Femi. She moved in. She came out of a situation. She used to be a stripper. She had a sponsor that she lived with to try to get her out of the stripper lifestyle.
Did she tell you this?
Yes.
All right. You're leasing an apartment already?
Yes.
The two of you together?
Yes.
Okay, and she comes to you
I'm originally on the lease, but my girlfriend lives with me.
Okay, and so what happens?
Basically, she moves in, and the original agreement...
What month and year?
May 2012. Sorry, May 2014. Mm-hmm. All right, so she moves in. It was originally agreed that we would split the rent halfway and that she was to stay in for 6 months.
Did you have a written agreement?
I do have the lease.
Did the two of you have a written agreement?
No, it was a verbal agreement.
Okay, and how much were you paying in rent?
$1,245.
And so the agreement was she would move in May of 2014,
yes,
stay for 6 months, and the two of you would split the rent 50-50?
The reason why
Were you living there at the time?
I was living there at the time.
What was the agreement when you moved in? What was the conversation the two of you had?
Michelle was staying there. She was deciding if she was gonna permanently stay there.
No. Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes, and Roselda and I had an agreement to where she was going to move in permanently, that it was going to be split 3 ways.
Okay, so when you moved in, though, you agreed to pay half of the rent, which was what?
It was about $600 plus utilities, so about $625.
And is it true what she said, that you were trying to get away from this guy who was sponsoring you?
No, that's
from the stripper lifestyle?
Not true. I've never used to be a stripper, and that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about, that people like my family trying to say these mean and hurtful words to me, calling me a stripper. Like, that's just out of pocket, and nobody should treat somebody like that, especially not their family.
She's living there, she's paying half the rent, but according to your complaint and your answer, you tell her she can't have company.
No,
what was that about?
Well,
what happened with the guy that she wanted to have over?
Before she had, when she had a boyfriend, she still had her sponsor giving her gifts. And
what
so
does that have to do with her having company at the apartment?
I'm gonna get into that. So what happened was we had a cousin named. She told us that she didn't want to come at the house. And so because she does pay rent, we told her that, you know, it's not right that you're telling us that we can't have our own family inside the house. But still, we respected it.
You said in your complaint to the court something completely different. You said you didn't know this guy, and I have the text messages that the two of you submitted. She's telling you that she meets this guy, she's dating this guy, because I just want to get an understanding.
Oh, yeah.
He's an amazing guy.
And you say,
he was a great
excuse
guy.
me?
He was
an amazing guy.
He was good, because I actually talked to him
So
during the
why are you
activation.
telling her in a text message don't bring him over to the house. You guys should go on a date at the lake or something.
Yeah, because
but don't come to the house.
No, because it was an issue. So
why does she have to go on a date at the lake and the two of you were dating
because we were actually worked a 16.
Just explain that to me. Explain why someone who moves in and is paying half the rent, why you get to regulate their company and who they're dating and when they can have a date over to the house.
Because every time she brings somebody over, it's always an issue. So going back to her sister.
What was it? No. What was the issue with this guy? What did he do?
So we actually worked a 16-hour plus shift.
What did he do?
And he pretty much, we're like, hey, look.
You just said he was a great guy. What did he do wrong?
He didn't do anything wrong, but because of
so what's the reason why he couldn't be over at the house to visit her?
I understand. It's because anytime Femi brings somebody over.
No, I don't want to talk about any time. I'm talking about this particular guy. You
because every time that she brought him over, she wouldn't clean up her dishes. She would leave things out.
All right, I've heard enough. You're not giving me. You can't. You can't have somebody move in and pay half the rent and then dictate
because the
where
reason
they can have their date.
Because we were on mutual respect. She told us that our family member was not allowed in the house.
Let's move on to the next issue because you're not making any sense about that.
Coming up, tensions in the house heat up.
Femi started drawing death threats to us.
Did you do that? I wouldn't call it a death threat. I would call it art.
Really?
Plaintiffs Michelle Danthin and Roselda Newfill say living with Mia was a total nightmare. They're suing for unpaid rent, property damage, and harassment. Defendant Mia Chipola says Michelle and Roselda are controlling bullies. She's countersuing for rent overpayment.
What's the harassment about?
So the harassment was that Femi, afterwards, Femi started drawing death threats to us. Femi has also...
Did you do that? I wouldn't call it a death threat. I would call it art, but it wasn't directed towards them.
Where's this whiteboard? Where's this whiteboard?
The whiteboard is located behind her door. Is right here
in between the bathroom.
Okay, why don't you walk over and explain to me what this is?
Oh yes, I will definitely go ahead and do that.
Did you draw this?
Yes, she drew this part. Anyway, so with this picture, we actually have our own businesses that we're starting, and Roselda actually drew circles of where we're going to start at, and of course where we're going to finish. So we actually had a plan. As you can see, we start here, and this is going to be our goal. We're also going to put other things in there, like what we need to do for our business and so forth. So with Femi, I asked her, I said, hey, again, this is why we didn't want family to move in the first place. We said, Femi, or actually I said, Femi, can you please clean up behind yourself?
Can you explain to me what's on the board?
So we have different pictures, and see, this isn't funny, but she's taking...
No, I'm asking you to explain to me what's on the board.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to let her know why we don't...
Why are you laughing? Why do you think this is funny?
Because this is beautiful art, and I don't know...
Beautiful art.
I mean, I know art is in the beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
But why is that beautiful to you? Who are those two people supposed to be?
They're actually supposed to be like people and roses. Like them hanging from the tree kind of like represents like how love hangs from the tree.
Love.
And
love.
that they're people.
Really?
Because people are trapped and hanging.
Okay, just stop. Tell me what this is.
So
just stop.
So since these,
when was this art created?
This art was created after and that's the thing, because we told her.
Can you answer a single question I ask you?
Because
when was this created?
This was created. Yeah, this was actually created in the last month that she was living here.
Okay, and what is this supposed to be?
So
what do you think it's supposed to mean?
I know it's me because before this hairstyle, I had an afro. So if you can see the afro in every single picture, Roselda, as you can clearly see with her hair now, has her hair down. And this is actually the second time she's done this.
So what's that, a shooting, a car accident, and a hanging?
This is us getting shot, blood. This is us getting hit by a car. I don't know what that is, but it's still death because you see the X's, and of course us hanging by a tree.
Okay, you can go back to to the lectern, please. And why would you draw that in a place where they could obviously see it? What was your message you were trying to send there? You're gonna still stick with the story about love and roses?
I just thought it was funny, and obviously it upset her, and that's what I wanted it to do. So.
When we basically typed up a written agreement from the verbal agreement that from Femi's 30-day tenancy, we gave it to her. She ripped it in front of our bathroom while we were taking a shower and started yelling that we need to die slowly. She started calling us.
Let me ask you something, because clearly the two, you guys aren't getting along. Why do you say you kept getting her jobs, these gigs that you all were working together
The last gig that we got was when she met this boy. And like I said, we were all for it. So we were on good terms at that point.
You're all for the relationship as long as he doesn't visit her at your house, right?
No, the issue was that we were not on okay grounds at that point.
Right.
The first time we saw him, that same day, he came to the house. We did not, being the adults, we didn't say anything. But every single day, she kept sneaking him inside the house.
Why does she have to? She doesn't have to sneak him in. She pays rent.
Exactly, because we have a no-shoe policy inside of our house. We come home, we see his drawers all over the living room floor and stuff like that. We approach him and we approach her later and we say, Femi, we know you're sneaking this guy inside the house because all of a sudden the house is becoming a mess. Femi is normally a very clean person, but because she's starting to leave the house a mess, this is what's becoming the issue.
Okay, all right, just stop because this is way too much.
Coming up on Judge Faith, the damages are disputed.
Every single curtain in the apartment cut.
But even though she cut them, you want her to pay you for them, but you didn't pay for them in the first place.
We
you didn't own them in the first place. Don't get me wrong, she's silly, petty, and immature to do what she did, but why should she pay you for the curtains?
Plaintiffs Michelle Danthin and Roselda Newfield say Mia threatened them. They're suing for unpaid rent, property damage, and harassment. Defendant Mia Chipola says she wanted to upset her roommates, and the plan worked. She's countersuing for rent overpayment.
You are suing also for damaged curtains. Mm-hmm. Well, you're suing for a number of things, but tell me about the damaged curtains.
Coming back from another 12-hour shift, we come home to see every single curtain in the apartment cut in half.
Whose curtains were they?
They were originally her curtains, but we didn't.
So why did you cut your curtains?
I cut my curtains because it's easier to take them down if you do that, and then they don't have to get to use them.
Do you think I'm stupid? I mean, I don't, because I don't understand what's going on here.
Because...
Do you think you're funny or you think I'm stupid?
No, I just feel like after so much bullying and name-calling and, being self-degraded...
So you were upset and you cut the curtains. They're your curtains. You didn't want to leave them there, so you cut them.
Yeah, I cut them.
There was the vindictiveness behind the curtains. If she took the curtains on the rods, that would have been no issue because, like you said, those were her curtains. But because she cut them in a malicious form...
Right. You want her to... But even though she cut them, so it's her property. Mm-hmm. Right? So even though she cut them, you want her to pay you for them, but you didn't pay for them in the first place. You didn't own them in the first place. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, she's silly, petty, and immature to do what she did, but why should she pay you for the curtains?
Because originally, we never talked about that we were going to...
All right, I've heard enough about that. What's your counterclaim about? You're suing for overpayment in rent.
Yes, because originally the agreement was for the rent to be split 3 different ways.
Mm-hmm. Can I see the lease agreement that you had, ma'am? Because who's on the original lease for the apartment?
I am.
Okay, and were you allowed to have other people living in the apartment? Were you allowed to sublet?
No.
Did you ever try to get her on the lease?
No,
you just moved her in?
Yes, because...
And you didn't get permission to do that?
No.
You are leasing to her illegally. Okay, in breach of your lease agreement, but you want to come into court and sue her for rent.
The reason why was because it was a verbal agreement, so it was a verbal contract,
yeah.
And the reason why...
That you don't have the authority to enter into per your lease agreement.
But the reason why was because she was supposed to be helping my sick mother.
Who was supposed to be?
Femi.
It doesn't, okay, the reason doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. However noble you want to say they are. I mean, because you've given me, first you said she wanted to get away from her sponsor who she was stripping and wanted to get away from him. That was the original reason when you came into court today, that's what you said. That story has evolved.
No, I said no.
During your testimony here today.
That's the reason why.
Don't interrupt me. That's what you told me initially. Over time, your testimony, it has evolved. And now it's about this sick family member and you were trying to help her out and all these other things. My question to you was, did you get permission from your landlord, which is required under your contract with your landlord? And the answer is no. So you had no authority. But now you're coming into court and you're asking me to enforce the illegal agreement between the two of you. Because... What do you want to say, ma'am?
My name is Felicia Chipola. I am Mia's sister and Roselda's cousin.
Okay.
In April 2014, I put 30-day notice into my apartment, and I was thinking about moving in with Roselda. I went to their landlord. I started filling out the paperwork and everything. I was gonna move in there.
Whose idea was it for you to go to the landlord and fill out the paperwork? Who told you about that?
It was originally what
So
we
you
were
knew.
supposed
So
to
you
do.
knew that you were supposed to go to the landlord and get her on the lease, and you didn't. You knew it.
So Felicia was supposed to go on the lease because it was a long-term thing. Because we agreed that Femi would be there for only 6 months.
Does not matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if she was there for 6 months, if she was there for a year. You knew that you had to go to your landlord. Now I know that from this witness's testimony. You knew you were supposed to go and have her added onto the lease, and you didn't. Okay, thank you.
Femi came inside the house after she fully moved out, and she destroyed our shoe rack. Michelle's survival knife is missing, and our property was strewed all over the living room.
Right, but none of that excuses you entering into an illegal sublet, but go ahead.
Okay, and so after that, Femi came into the apartment.
Did you do those things?
No, I did not.
We have video of it.
Okay, what do you
have
mean
a video
she
of me
destroyed
doing the
it?
actual physical thing?
What do you mean she destroyed a shoe rack?
The board that's normally supposed to be like this was broken. And
Okay.
so
Okay.
that is broken. We see our property all about. The only people who have keys.
Did you move their property and throw it around?
I did not.
You don't
But
sound
she's the
very
only one with the
convincing.
keys.
And we
No,
were
okay.
out the whole
I
entire
didn't-
day.
I
Just like
didn't
you cut
come
the
back.
curtains to make them easier to take down?
I did not break the shoe rack. I simply kicked shoes off of it. That's all I did.
Really, I'm going to tell both of you something from what I've observed here today. Neither one of you are being completely truthful with me about what happened in that apartment.
Coming up, Judge Faith rules. And now, Judge Faith rules.
Your lawsuit is mostly about harassment, $4,000, and you say that she owes you also $766 in unpaid rent for April and those few days that she lived there in May. So you're countersuing. You say that the agreement was when you moved in there, that it was just the two of you. And then she became a permanent resident in the house, and the agreement was the rent would be split 3 ways. So you're saying that she owes you for the overpayment in rent that you paid during that year. So here's what we're going to do. The two of you, well, you're the person actually on the lease with your landlord. You entered into an illegal lease, and I think you're far too controlling of a roommate situation and ordering and controlling things that you have no right to do. And I think you're dishonest. I asked you about the photo that you drew with the people hanging from the tree. And I asked you about why you cut the curtains. And you're obviously dishonest about those things. Nevertheless, this case is way more about drama, right, than the actual claims the two of you have filed against each other. I believe that the rent was probably supposed to be split 3 ways and that she did overpay in the amount of, based on my calculation, about $840 during that year. However, although she can't sue for back rent on an illegal lease, you don't get to come into court and brazenly look me in my face and tell me, yeah, I destroyed the property. It's not okay. I believe you overpaid around $840 in rent, but I'm going to offset that amount and award them damages in the amount of $840. So that means both of these claims offset each other, 0 for you, 0 for you. That's my judgment.
This is horrible. We came here to get justice and we didn't even get justice. This is horrible.
I think that I like living by myself from now on. It's less drama and you don't have to deal with crazy people as such as your family.